Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7. And for today's video, I will be going over another theory video. And this theory video is about Godspeed potentially ending up teaming up with Barry and maybe joining Team Flash by the end of The Flash Season 7, if not during The Flash Season 7. Now, yes, I know it's way too early to be theorizing about this, especially with the fact that we haven't even seen Godspeed yet this season, but I just felt like doing a theory video about this because I just thought that this was a pretty interesting video idea to go over, and which is why I'm actually doing a video on it. If you guys know Godspeed in the comics, you guys would know where I'm coming from with this theory. But going into tomorrow's episode of The Flash Season 7, that being Season 7 Episode 4, titled Central City Strong, we will officially be entering the actual Season 7 storyline with graphic novel number 3 coming into play, where we will be having a new main villain and new storylines to explore for our characters and the whole season in general. Now, for those who don't know, this season, just like last season, will be split into two different graphic novels. So they will not be part of the same storyline. There'll be two different graphic novels with two different storylines to explore and two different main villains. So from episodes 4 to 11, we have graphic novel number 3 coming into play. And then from episodes 12 to 18, we will be entering graphic novel number 4, which is the back half of The Flash Season 7. Now, from episode 3's cliffhanger, we obviously had multiple different lightning colors scattering across Central City due to Team Flash helping Barry get his speed back. Now, the thing about this ending scene is that it's obviously a setup for graphic novel number 3 and that season-long storyline where we will be playing around with what it looks to be the Force Quest storyline with the Sage Force, the Speed Force, the Strength Force, and the Still Force. Now, whether this Force's quest will remain as like a whole season long storyline, or will it be that we will be having that Force Quest storyline for the first half of the season and then for the back half we have another storyline, I'm not sure about that. Now, at least for the first half of The Flash Season 7, I have been theorizing that the main villain will either be Psyche or some big bad which wants to take control of these forces or something along those lines. But for graphic novel number 4, I have been theorizing that the main villain will be Godspeed. And how they could do this is that maybe for the first half of the season, we actually explore these different forces and we go in depth with the Still Force, the Strength Force, and the Sage Force, and we basically explore that for the first half. But then for the back half, we have Team Flash finding out that there's somebody else using the Speed Force, and then they will eventually find out that it's Godspeed, and that leads to them setting up Godspeed as the antagonist for the second half. But will it be that we will end up seeing Godspeed and the Flash team up, and leading into Godspeed potentially joining Team Flash? If not, they just team up to face off a greater big bad. So yeah, that's what I'll be theorizing about during this video. But as I have been saying from my previous theory videos, this is just a theory, so please don't take what I'm about to say as a way to get excited, even if the theory actually makes sense. Because if there's a chance that I'm wrong, in which it's highly likely that I am, I don't want to be the reason for you guys getting disappointed because the outcome did not turn out the way I may have theorized about, in which that specific theory ended up getting you guys excited. So please don't use this theory as a way to get excited, because if the outcome is different, I don't want you guys to get disappointed. And this doesn't just apply for this one theory video, as I have said in my other theory videos as well. It applies for all of my theory videos, because since the backlash of WandaVision starting due to those theories hyping people up way too much, and then the outcome ended up getting them disappointed based on that one theory and it didn't end up becoming true, I don't want that happening for you guys. I want you guys to still enjoy this show no matter what. Okay, so as I said during the intro of this video, the ending scene of The Flash Season 7 Episode 3 was to set up the Force Quest storyline going into the next half of The Flash Season 7, or graphic novel number 3. And one of these four forces do also include that of the Speed Force. So we do know that there's a certain other out there who will be using the Speed Force other than our previous speedsters which we have seen. So the idea over here is that Godspeed, whoever he is, ended up being the one who got struck by the Speed Force. Because as I said, my theory was that 4 different individuals will be struck by these 4 different forces, if you will. So one will get struck by the Sage Force, the other will get struck by the Strength Force, and so on. So I'm theorizing that Godspeed will be the one who gets struck by the Speed Force. Now the reason to why I said whoever Godspeed is not because I do not know who Godspeed is. I do know that Godspeed is August Hart, but I do not think that will end up being the case for the show. I do not think Godspeed will be August Hart on the show, mainly because we have already seen August Hart's Godspeed during season 5 episode 18, and I do not think that they will bring that actor again. I think they'll make somebody else become Godspeed. Now from what we have seen from the Godspeed clones, they have done some pretty antagonizing and threatening things in the past, and showrunner Eric Wallace did also say that they will be handling Godspeed in a different way, where he has a personal connection to both Barry and Iris as a couple. So just like Thawne, Zoom, Savitar, and other couple of different villains we have had on the show, their business was with Barry and no one else. That is similar for Godspeed as well, as we have seen with the Godspeed clones. Every time he did something, he did it so he could either attempt to take Barry's speed or threaten individuals just to get Barry's attention in order to get something. Yes, once again, those were Godspeed clones. And if the original Godspeed is the one controlling these clones and orchestrating them to go after Barry and ordering them to do that, doesn't that make the original Godspeed an antagonist as well? Well, yes it does. However, the only thing which is different compared to the other villains is that Godspeed is not actually a villain. He is not a villain. In the comics, he may have killed a couple of speedsters and stolen their speed. He may have faced off against the Flash. And yes, he may have even been a villain at one point. But there were also cases where Godspeed has worked with Barry to do something, and he has done some good as well. So if you want to say this makes Godspeed an anti-hero, not really like a big bad like Eobard Thawne or even Zoom. That could be something very interesting which they could actually incorporate onto the show, where Godspeed maybe starts off as an antagonist and that Team Flash actually finds out that the one who got struck by the Speed Force that night the Speed Force got revived was the original Godspeed, and they created the original Godspeed in that timeline. So maybe Godspeed may have some personal motivations against Barry at first, where maybe he blames him for the death of someone close to him, or it may have been that something which Barry did to this person in the past which he just wants to get revenge of, or he thinks it's Barry but ends up being somebody else, something along those lines. And then he would explain the whole purpose of the whole Godspeed clones, where maybe he sent them back in time because he knew that there was a point where Barry didn't have speed, so he used the Godspeed clones as an advantage to go back in time and go after the Flash because it's the easiest to strike him at that moment where he's most vulnerable. But then we could end up getting the actual main villain reveal, where this villain is this huge threat which Barry cannot handle alone, and since Godspeed is an anti-hero, we could have it so he ends up teaming up with Barry at one point to help stop this threat. We do also have the 150th episode of the season coming up, which is episode 17. So if we do end up seeing some some sort of special episode, we could potentially get these returning villains coming maybe, and Barry would be in desperate need of help if we do get some returning villains for that episode. So maybe he could even get Godspeed's help from there. Who knows? But again, this would be pretty interesting to see. But if he was to team up with Barry against someone, I would think that it would be the actual main villain of the season, if there is one, if Godspeed obviously isn't going to be the big bad for the back half of The Flash season 7. But honestly guys, I'm very interested to see how they will handle Godspeed this season, whether he does actually end up being an anti-hero just like in the comics, or they end up changing him to a point where this personal connection with Barry just goes to another level in which he wants Barry to suffer for a reason, and we just have Godspeed becoming a full-on main villain on the show compared to the comics. And I think that would be pretty cool to see as well. Personally, I'd rather have it so he isn't an anti-hero. I'd rather have him be this big bad all the way through. I just think this darker and more sinister version of Godspeed would be a lot cooler to see, and I think it would be the most appealing to fans as well. But on the other hand, it would also be pretty cool to see him team up with Barry at one point, and maybe he gets some sort of a role like Leonard Snart, where he technically, yes, he is a bad guy, but he does also help Barry in certain situations and he does do some good. That would be very interesting to see as well. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys think about this theory. Do you guys think that Godspeed will end up teaming up with Barry at some point? Or will he just be like a full-on antagonist going into the back half of The Flash season 7 or whenever he appears? I'm interested to see your thoughts towards all of this. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.